Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something that might sound small but is absolutely massive in the world of coin collecting. We're talking about the 1993 US 1-cent coin, yes, the Lincoln penny from 1993. Now, before you think, oh, it's just a penny, what's so special about it? Hang tight, because this little copper coin has a story that's massive, complicated, and yes, in some corners of the collecting world, rumored to be worth tens of millions of dollars, with some reports mentioning $65 million. Whether that number is real or inflated by myths, the coin has a fascinating history, unique design elements, and subtle features that make collectors go absolutely wild. So, grab your magnifying glasses, coffee, or whatever keeps you focused, because we're about to go deep, and I mean really deep, into the world of the 1993 penny. Alright, let's start at the beginning. The 1993 US 1-cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln cent series, which has been circulating since 1909. Designed to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny has always had a unique place in American numismatics. Unlike other coins, the Lincoln cent was revolutionary for its time because it introduced a real person, Lincoln himself, rather than the traditional allegorical figures or symbolic representations. And the 1993 version is particularly interesting because by this year, the coin had been minted for over 80 years, meaning the design had undergone subtle evolutions while still maintaining the classic profile of Lincoln on the obverse, or front side, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Now, when you pick up a 1993 penny, the first thing you notice, of course, is the obverse side, Lincoln's bust. Facing right, designed originally by Victor David Brenner. What's fascinating is that Brenner's initials, VDB, actually have a tiny, interesting history of their own. The initials were controversially placed at the base of Lincoln's bust in the first 1909 release, leading to public debate because some thought it looked too promotional. They were removed almost immediately but returned in a much smaller form around 1918. By 1993, these initials were a subtle signature at the bottom of Lincoln's shoulder, almost invisible without careful inspection, but to coin enthusiasts, it's like a hidden autograph, a mark of authenticity and artistry that ties the modern penny back to its 1909 origins. The reverse side of the 1993 penny, as with most pennies from 1959 to 2008, features the Lincoln Memorial, which replaced the earlier wheat ears design. This design was intended to honor Lincoln's lasting legacy and the famous monument in Washington, D.C. But here's where things get more intriguing. If you look closely, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse isn't just decorative. If you have a magnifying glass or a digital microscope, you can actually see the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial columns. That's right. The designers included a micro detail that makes the coin a marvel of precision engraving. For collectors, spotting these fine details is part of the thrill because it showcases the meticulous craftsmanship that goes into even the smallest denominations of US currency. Speaking of craftsmanship, let's talk about the weight and composition of the 1993 penny, because this is where many myths start to swirl. The standard penny at that time was made primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc, with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters and a weight of 3.11 grams. Some special collector editions, trial strikes, or mint errors had slight variations in weight due to metal impurities or double strikes, and these minor differences can dramatically affect a coin's value. For instance, a 1993 penny that weighs even a fraction of a gram more or less than standard could be considered an anomaly. Collectors know that anomalies are where the big money comes in, which is part of why stories of a 1993 penny being worth millions of dollars started circulating in numismatic communities. Now, let's discuss the mint mark. The 1993 pennies were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and for some special proofs, in San Francisco. The D mint mark indicates Denver, and the Philadelphia coins often had no mint mark at all. This small letter might seem inconsequential, but it is critical for collectors. Mint marks not only tell you where the coin was produced, but they also help identify rarity. For example, certain mint-marked coins from limited runs or error batches can skyrocket in value. It's the combination of mint mark, production anomalies, and condition that makes some 1993 pennies potentially astronomical in value, at least in theory. Now, let's dive into what really makes collectors' eyes widen: rare errors and anomalies. The 1993 penny has a few notable varieties that are particularly sought after. Some coins show die cracks, which occur when the metal dies used to strike the coins start to fracture. Others have double die averse, where Lincoln's features might appear doubled, slightly offset images that give the coin an almost 3D effect. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned with the coin's edge. These errors are extremely rare and can make a coin worth hundreds, thousands, or even millions of dollars depending on its condition and historical significance. Some collectors have reported coins that appear normal at first glance, but under magnification reveal microerrors, like doubled letters or tiny die chips. These tiny imperfections can create stories and legends in the coin world that keep collectors hunting for decades. Speaking of legends, let's talk about the myth of the $65 million 1993 penny. Now, realistically, no verified 1993 penny has ever been sold for that astronomical amount. But in numismatic circles, there are always stories, sometimes based on rare errors, sometimes fueled by internet hype, and sometimes simply the magic of rarity. The idea is that if a coin were to have an incredibly rare error, perfect grading, and provenance linking it to a historically significant event, it could theoretically fetch tens of millions at auction. This is the sort of coin that fuels imaginations. People daydream about finding it in their couch cushions or pocket change. And even if the $65 million figure is mostly myth, it underscores how collectors assign value not just based on metal, but on history, rarity, condition, and story. Another reason the 1993 penny is so fascinating is its place in modern coin collecting. By 1993, pennies were no longer just pocket change, they were collectibles. Coin collectors often grade coins using the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, uncirculated specimen. A 1993 penny in mint state 69 or 70 can be extremely valuable because of its pristine condition, sharp details, and lack of wear. Collectors will pay premium prices for coins that appear flawless, especially if they have rare features, like an off-center strike or die variety. Some numismatic experts even argue that because pennies are still widely used, the truly perfect specimens from any modern year are already incredibly rare. They've been handled, scratched, and circulated, making unblemished coins increasingly hard to find. And it's not just about rarity, symbolism matters too. Lincoln on the obverse represents honesty, leadership, and American history, while the memorial on the reverse serves as a reminder of his legacy and the monumental efforts to preserve freedom and equality. For many collectors, the 1993 penny is a tangible connection to history, a small piece of metal that carries with it over a century of stories, both political and personal. Owning one isn't just about money, it's about holding a piece of the nation's cultural memory. Alright, now let's touch briefly on the market trends and current value. While ordinary 1993 pennies in circulated condition are worth face value, literally 1 cent, rare varieties can reach tens of thousands of dollars. And while the $65 million figure is mostly hype, it represents the extreme potential collectors imagine when a coin is perfect, rare, and historically significant. Auction houses have seen modern-era coins reach prices far beyond what casual collectors might expect, especially when provenance and extreme rarity are involved. In that sense, the 1993 penny occupies a space in the numismatic world where imagination and reality collide, a tiny copper coin with stories that can rival the most expensive artworks. Now, I could go on and on about subtle details. For example, the edge of the 1993 penny is plain, but examining it under a loupe can reveal microscopic ridges and imperfections from the striking process. The copper composition isn't just for show, it affects color, wear, and corrosion over time. A penny stored in ideal conditions will maintain a reddish hue, while exposure to moisture or handling can darken it. Collectors often spend years finding coins that are in perfect color and luster, because these factors drastically impact value. Even something as small as a slight tarnish or scratch can change a coin from worth thousands to just a few dollars. And then there's the story behind Lincoln's image itself. Brenner used photographs of Lincoln, but he also had to sculpt a likeness that could be reproduced millions of times on a small coin. That balance between realism and practicality is what makes coins like the 1993 penny so interesting. They're tiny feats of art, mass-produced yet individually unique in their imperfections. So, as we wrap up this first part, you can see that the 1993 US 1-cent coin is far more than just a penny. It's a window into American history, a canvas of intricate design, and for collectors, a potential treasure trove of value, even if some of the most outrageous prices are more legend than fact. From the subtle VDB and ED. Alright guys, welcome back, and if you're just joining in, we're in the middle of an epic deep dive into the incredible story of the 1993 Lincoln penny. In part 1, we went over its design, its history, the meaning behind its symbols, and the fascinating fact that even a coin worth 1 cent can become the centerpiece of million-dollar conversations. But in this part, we're going to take that curiosity and dig much deeper into the hidden world of coin errors, grading, auctions, and collector psychology. This is the stuff that really separates an average penny from the ones that can command absolutely jaw-dropping prices in the collector's market. Let's start with something that blows a lot of beginners' minds: error coins. See, in 1993, the US Mint was producing billions of pennies. That's billions with a B. And when you're mass-producing that many coins, you're bound to get a few that come out just a little off. Now, here's the wild thing. The minting process is so precise that even the tiniest deviations, we're talking microns of difference, can create a coin that's instantly collectible. Imagine finding a penny where Lincoln's head is shifted slightly, or where the letters, Liberty, look doubled. That's not damage from circulation, that's a minting error, and those can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most sought-after types of error is called a double die. You might have heard that term thrown around in coin collecting videos or articles. A double die happens when the die, that's the metal stamp used to imprint the coin, shifts slightly between strikes. When that happens, it leaves behind a faint but visible doubling of letters, numbers, or even parts of Lincoln's face. A double die obverse on a 1993 penny, for example, could show a slightly duplicated Liberty, or doubled In God We Trust. These coins are rare because it's not something that's supposed to happen, and when the mint notices it, they correct it immediately. But before they do, a few can slip into circulation, and that's where the treasure hunt begins. Another common but valuable type of error is the off-center strike. In this case, the blank piece of metal, known as a planchet, isn't perfectly centered when it gets struck by the dies. The result? Part of the design is missing, maybe Lincoln's shoulder is cut off, or part of the date doesn't appear. The more off-center it is, without losing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes. A perfectly centered strike is normal, but a dramatically off-centered coin is a 1 in a million find. Then there are broad strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets, all of which can happen during production. A broad strike happens when the collar that shapes the coin's rim fails, causing the coin to expand slightly beyond its usual diameter. Die cracks occur when the metal die begins to fracture, creating raised lines on the coin that look like lightning bolts. Clipped planchets happen when the blank metal discs are misfed during production, resulting in coins with crescent-shaped chunks missing. Each of these errors tells a story of what was happening inside the mint that day, and that's what collectors love. They're holding a small piece of mechanical history, an artifact of imperfection in a world obsessed with precision. Now let's talk about grading, one of the most important factors in determining a coin's value. Grading is like the coin collector's version of an art appraiser inspecting a painting. Every tiny detail matters: luster, strike quality, scratches, color, and even the tiniest contact marks. The Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70, is used to assign a numerical grade to a coin. A coin graded MS-60 means it's mint state but with visible flaws, while an MS-70 coin is absolutely flawless under magnification, something almost impossible to find in circulation. When it comes to the 1993 penny, MS-69 and MS-70 grades are extremely rare. The vast majority of pennies from that year were circulated, meaning they've been through thousands of hands, coin jars, vending machines, and pocket shuffles. Finding a pristine example is like finding a time capsule from 1993, untouched, gleaming, and perfect. Those are the coins that go to professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, where they're examined by experts and sealed in protective holders. Once a coin gets a top-grade certification, it's like getting a stamp of immortality. Its value skyrockets. But now you might be asking, how do we go from a few dollars to tens of thousands or even millions? Well, that's where collector psychology and market dynamics come in. In the world of coin collecting, rarity drives demand, but so does the story. If a coin has a famous error, a limited production run, or even an unusual backstory, collectors start to compete for it. Every auction, every record sale, creates a ripple effect. Suddenly, everyone's searching their pocket change for that one elusive variety. The hype grows, prices climb, and legends are born. This is exactly how the $65 million myth surrounding the 1993 penny took root. Somewhere online, a story probably began about a rare 1993 coin with a unique mint error, maybe struck on the wrong planchet, say, a silver or nickel base instead of copper zinc. That kind of mint mistake would indeed make it extraordinarily valuable, though not likely tens of millions. But once a headline hits social media claiming, 1993 penny worth $65 million found in pocket change, the human imagination runs wild. People start checking every penny they own, and the legend snowballs. Now, let's get technical for a minute. The composition of the 1993 penny was actually 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, not the old solid bronze used before 1982. That's right. By 1993, the U.S. Mint had switched to copper-plated zinc, a change that saved money but also introduced new varieties of planchet errors. Sometimes the copper coating was applied unevenly, resulting in zinc blisters or exposed zinc spots on the coin's surface. These are technically considered flaws, but in rare cases, they can become valuable if they form unique or visually striking patterns. A penny with a large, shiny patch of exposed zinc might not look special to the average person, but to a specialist collector, it's a one-of-a-kind minting artifact. Another cool area of collecting is what's called transitional errors. These occur when the mint changes materials or designs between years, and a few coins accidentally get struck using the old materials or dies. For example, if any 1993 pennies were mistakenly struck on the leftover bronze planchets from the early 80s, which theoretically could happen if old blanks were still in storage, those would be insanely valuable. Transitional errors like that are the stuff of numismatic dreams. And then there are proof coins, special collector's editions made with polished dies and blanks to create a mirror-like finish. In 1993, proof pennies were struck at the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. These coins were never intended for circulation. They were made for collectors and included in proof sets sold by the U.S. Mint. Proof 1993 pennies in perfect condition can fetch anywhere from a few dollars to hundreds, depending on demand and grading. But again, it's those ultra-rare anomalies, the ones that somehow deviate from perfection, that cause the biggest buzz. Let's shift gears and talk about auctions for a second, because this is where things get truly exciting. Every year, major auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers host sales where rare coins break records. When a coin with a dramatic story or unique error appears, the bidding wars can get intense. For instance, similar Lincoln cents from other years, like the 1955 double die or the 1969 S double die, have sold for tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not fiction, those are real numbers from verified sales. So, when rumors start about a unique 1993 penny worth millions, it's not entirely out of nowhere. History has shown that rare Lincoln cents can absolutely command eye-popping prices if the right conditions align. Now let's talk about the collector mindset for a moment, because understanding why people are willing to pay such incredible sums helps make sense of the hype. Coin collecting isn't just about owning money, It's about owning a tangible piece of history, art, and mystery. Each coin is a time traveler, passing through decades, sometimes centuries, carrying the invisible fingerprints of all who have held it. The 1993 penny represents the last decade of 20th century minting before digital technology transformed production. It's nostalgic, a link to an era before smartphones, before the internet took over. That emotional connection is priceless to many collectors. Another fascinating aspect of the 1993 penny is its symbolism in American culture. Think about it: Abraham Lincoln, the man who preserved the Union and ended slavery, immortalized on the smallest denomination of U.S. currency. There's a beautiful irony there. It's as if every penny reminds Americans that greatness isn't about wealth but about character and perseverance. That symbolism adds layers of meaning that transcend its face value. For some collectors, that philosophical or emotional connection is what makes it worth pursuing, not just the potential financial gain. Now you might wonder, what would it actually take for a 1993 penny to be worth $65 million? Theoretically, it would have to check off every single box imaginable. It would need to be an ultra-rare minting error, possibly a double denomination strike, like a penny accidentally struck over a dime, perfectly preserved in an MS-70 grade, with historical documentation linking it to a unique event, maybe even a one-of-a-kind prototype that somehow left the M.
Hey everyone, welcome back. If you've been following along, you already know that the 1993 Lincoln penny is way more than just a small copper coin. We've talked about its history, design, symbolism, potential mint errors, and even the legendary $65 million hype. But now, it's time to get into some practical, insider-level details, the stuff collectors obsess over when they're trying to separate an ordinary penny from a potentially priceless one. This is where things get really exciting, because we're diving into the world of detection, grading, market psychology, and rare variety spotting. Alright, first up, how to detect rare varieties at home. And no, you don't need a $10,000 microscope or a professional certification to start noticing the subtle differences that make some pennies so valuable. Most collectors start with a simple magnifying glass, sometimes a loupe with 10x or 20x magnification. With careful inspection, you can spot minor doubling in letters, faint die cracks, or tiny imperfections in the Lincoln Memorial columns on the reverse. One of the coolest things about the 1993 penny is that the Lincoln Memorial design is so detailed that even minor flaws become immediately noticeable under magnification. A small crack or doubling can indicate a die error, the type that could make a coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and condition. Next, let's talk about weight and planchet inspection. The 1993 penny is primarily made of copper-plated zinc, weighing approximately 2.5 grams. Slight deviations in weight can be a red flag for anomalies or errors. Some extremely rare collectors have found pennies where the copper plating is missing or uneven, revealing exposed zinc underneath. While many of these are minor flaws, occasionally a coin emerges with such unusual characteristics that it becomes a sought-after collector's item. Even the tiniest variation in planchet thickness, diameter, or metal composition can distinguish a common penny from a potential rarity. Now, let's move into grading secrets. As I mentioned in Part 2, coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. But what most beginners don't realize is that grading isn't just about whether a coin looks nice. Experts examine subtle details, the sharpness of the design, the quality of the strike, color consistency, luster, and even microscopic contact marks. For example, a coin might appear flawless to the naked eye, but under high magnification, tiny scratches or planchet imperfections can dramatically affect its grade. That's why coins graded MS-70 are incredibly rare. They're nearly impossible to find in circulated years, even as recent as 1993. An important tip for collectors is understanding proof versus circulation coins. Proof coins, especially the 1993's mint-marked examples from San Francisco, are specially struck for collectors with polished dies and mirrors-like finishes. These coins are easier to grade high because they start out pristine, but they also tend to be less exciting in terms of mint errors, since production is carefully controlled. Circulated coins, on the other hand, are where the hidden gems can appear. Off-center strikes, doubled dies, and transitional errors are far more likely to occur during mass production. Now let's talk about the market hype and collector psychology that fuels insane valuations, like the $65 million story. Here's the thing, most of the value in rare coins comes not from the metal itself. The 1993 penny is mostly zinc, so it's practically worthless as raw metal, but from rarity, story, and emotional appeal. Collectors want something unique, something that feels like a treasure. When the story of a $65 million penny started circulating online, it wasn't about a verified sale. It was about imagination. People loved the idea that an ordinary object could suddenly be worth a fortune. That's why auction houses and online communities get so much engagement. Even if the real value is much lower, the potential and the story create enormous excitement. Another fascinating aspect of modern collecting is digital and online markets. With platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and specialist numismatic forums, collectors around the world can bid on, discuss, and trade coins instantly. That global exposure increases competition and sometimes inflates prices. A rare 1993 penny might sell for $1,000 in a local sale, but in an international online auction with multiple enthusiastic collectors, bidding can skyrocket. And when rare errors or unusual specimens are discovered, the news spreads instantly, feeding the mythos and occasionally causing local prices to spike. Alright, let's dive deeper into specific high-value varieties of the 1993 penny. While no verified penny from this year has ever sold for tens of millions, there are some intriguing possibilities for collectors to watch. One is the double die obverse. On a 1993 penny, this might manifest as doubling in the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. Even faint doubling can significantly increase value, especially when paired with a high-grade coin. Another is off-center strikes, where up to 50% of the design could be missing. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin. Then there are planchet errors, like improperly coated zinc or leftover experimental planchets from previous years, which are extremely rare but can become collector legends if discovered. Let's also talk about auction records for related coins, because it helps contextualize why collectors get so excited. Other Lincoln cents, like the 1955 double die, have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes reaching over $1 million at the right auction. These examples show that collectors are willing to pay massive amounts for rarity, condition, and story. So while the $65 million figure for the 1993 penny is mythic, it's not entirely absurd that a truly unique coin could command extraordinary value, especially if it's a one-of-a-kind error point. One of the most exciting things about the 1993 penny is the thrill of discovery. Think about it. Every coin you find in a jar or on the street has the potential to be extraordinary. Most will be ordinary, sure, but the occasional anomaly makes the hunt addictive. Collectors love to search through pocket change, rolls from banks, and old coin collections hoping to stumble across that rare variant that everyone talks about but few have seen. That sense of adventure is priceless and part of why coins like the 1993 penny remain so captivating. Now let's get a little technical about how grading affects market value. Coins certified MS-70 by PCGS or NGC are graded as flawless. If that same coin also has a recognized error, like a double die or dramatic off-center strike, the value can increase exponentially. The grading provides trust and authentication, so buyers know they're getting exactly what they're paying for. Without grading, coins can still be valuable, but the market is less certain, and collectors are more cautious. That's why professional grading has become such a critical part of the modern coin market. Another fascinating modern trend is online numismatic communities. Forums, YouTube channels, and social media groups allow collectors to share images, compare notes, and verified potential rarities. A 1993 penny that looks ordinary to one person might be instantly recognized as a rare error by someone with decades of experience. This collective knowledge has made it easier than ever to identify potential treasure coins, which also fuels the mythic values we see online. So, what's the takeaway for those of you watching? The 1993 penny is far more than a simple piece of metal. It's a tiny artifact of history, a potential treasure for the observant, and a symbol of how even the most mundane objects can inspire stories, myths, and speculation. Its value lies not in its copper and zinc composition, but in its rarity, errors, condition, and the story it carries. Collectors are drawn to it because it's small, accessible, and yet capable of holding massive mystery, a paradox that makes coin collecting endlessly fascinating. In the next part, we'll go even deeper. We'll explore how to authenticate rare errors, look at some famous auction stories of modern Lincoln cents, and discuss strategies for spotting anomalies that could be highly valuable. Plus, we'll touch on the role of digital documentation, provenance, and collector psychology in determining what a coin is really worth. You won't want to miss it, because the world of 1993 pennies is more complex and thrilling than you ever imagined. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you've been following along, you already know the 1993 Lincoln penny is far more than a 1-cent coin. It's a portal into American history, artistry, and the thrilling world of coin collecting. In the previous parts, we've explored its design, history, weight, symbolism, mint errors, grading, and market hype. Now, in this part, we're going to go even deeper into how collectors authenticate rare pennies, auction highlights, advanced grading, and dissecting the $65 million legend. This is the part where the coin world gets really technical and exciting. First, let's talk about authentication, a critical step before anyone spends serious money on a coin. The 1993 penny, like all modern coins, can be counterfeited, altered, or misrepresented. Authentication involves verifying the coin's metal composition, weight, diameter, mint mark, and design details. Even a small discrepancy in the copper-plated zinc ratio or a slightly off-weight coin can indicate a counterfeit or altered piece. Experts often use digital scales accurate to 0.01 grams, calipers to measure diameter, and magnification tools to examine the fine details of Lincoln's bust and the Lincoln Memorial. For example, a genuine 1993 penny will have a diameter of 19.05 millimeters and a weight around 2.5 grams. Any significant deviation warrants closer inspection. Now, let's talk about grading in extreme detail. As we've mentioned, grading is done on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, but the process involves multiple layers of scrutiny. Experts examine the strike quality, which refers to how sharply the design was imprinted. They check surface preservation, looking for contact marks, scratches, or blemishes. They also evaluate luster, which is the reflective quality of the coin's surface, and color, because the copper-plated zinc should display a consistent reddish hue if uncirculated. Even microwear from circulation can lower a coin's grade dramatically. Coins graded MS-70 are virtually flawless, almost impossible to find in circulation, and these coins are the ones that attract the most collector attention. Next up, let's dive into famous auction highlights involving Lincoln cents. While the 1993 penny hasn't historically reached multi-million-dollar sales, other modern Lincoln cents provide a fascinating benchmark. For instance, the 1955 double-die obverse penny sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, proving that collectors will pay extraordinary amounts for rarity, error, and perfection. Similarly, the 1969 double-die penny commanded over $1 million due to its scarcity and dramatic doubling. These sales illustrate the underlying principle: collectors value rarity, condition, and story over the intrinsic metal value, and that principle applies to the 1993 penny. Let's get a little more technical with error varieties. There are several ways a 1993 penny could be uniquely valuable. Double-die obverse, minor or dramatic doubling of letters or numbers on Lincoln's bust. Even faint doubling can make the coin collectible. Off-center strikes, a coin where the die missed perfectly centering the planchet, resulting in a portion of Lincoln or the memorial being cut off. Planchet errors, imperfect or experimental planchets, such as unplated zinc blanks or leftover bronze planchets from earlier years. Die cracks and clashes. Raised lines from cracked dies or subtle imprints of the die hitting the coin twice, creating unique anomalies. Each of these varieties is rare but possible, and discovering one could dramatically increase a coin's market value. The thrill of spotting one is a major reason collectors remain obsessed with the 1993 penny. Now, let's discuss the psychology behind the $65 million myth. Most experts agree that number 1993 penny has actually sold for anywhere near that amount. So why does this number persist? It's all about the intersection of rarity, storytelling, and human imagination. A coin that's rare, perfectly preserved, and has a dramatic mint error could theoretically be worth millions, and online communities amplify this speculation. Headlines, social media posts, and YouTube videos often exaggerate potential values, fueling the legend. Even if it's largely mythical, the $65 million story drives collectors to search, inspect, and treasure hunt, keeping interest in the 1993 penny alive. Let's also talk about provenance, which is critical in determining a coin's value. Provenance refers to a coin's history, previous owners, auctions, or documented discovery. A coin with strong provenance, like being part of a famous collection or a museum, can be exponentially more valuable than an identical coin with unknown history. For example, a 1993 penny discovered in an original mint roll from 1993 with detailed documentation of its journey could attract serious collector attention. Provenance essentially tells the coin's story, and collectors love stories as much as they love rarity. Another crucial aspect of valuation is market timing. The coin market fluctuates based on collector interest, economic conditions, and auction trends. A 1993 penny with a minor error might sell for a few $100s one year, and a few thousand the next if a related rare coin made headlines. This dynamic pricing is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's a living market, influenced by both factual rarity and the narratives created around coins. We also need to talk about modern digital tools for collectors. High-resolution photography, online grading services, and digital numismatic databases allow collectors to compare coins, verify errors, and even estimate potential values without leaving home. Some collectors use software to overlay images of their coins with known error examples, identifying minute differences that would be invisible to the naked eye. Technology has turned the hunt for rare pennies, including the 1993 Lincoln cent, into a global treasure hunt, connecting enthusiasts from all corners of the world. Now let's explore how myths affect collector behavior. When a coin is rumored to be worth millions, even if unverified, collectors become more vigilant. They examine rolls of pennies with more scrutiny, and rare errors that might otherwise go unnoticed gain attention. The $65 million legend, while unrealistic, has fueled interest in 1993 pennies, creating a market of high engagement. That's why even ordinary pennies from that year sometimes sell at a premium compared to face value, because the hype has turned them into objects of curiosity and desire. Alright, now let's briefly examine strategies collectors use to spot valuable 1993 pennies. Check the date and mint mark carefully. Tiny variations can indicate a rare minting error. Inspect the obverse and reverse for doubling, letters, numbers, and Lincoln's features can show subtle or dramatic doubling. Examine edges and rims. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets leave telltale marks. Look at color and luster. Uncirculated coins maintain a consistent reddish hue. Discoloration may indicate wear or unusual metal composition. Use magnification tools. Loupes or microscopes reveal die cracks, doubling, and other microdetails invisible to the naked eye. Following these steps doesn't guarantee a $65 million coin, but it dramatically increases the chance of discovering something truly valuable, or at least highly collectible. Finally, let's tie it all together. The 1993 US penny is a microcosm of numismatic fascination. It's small, seemingly mundane, but packed with history, art, and the potential for discovery. Its value isn't in copper or zinc, it's in rarity, anomalies, condition, provenance, and the stories it tells. The $65 million legend is largely myth, but it serves a purpose. It inspires curiosity, passion, and the thrill of the hunt, which is exactly why collectors around the world continue to obsess over this tiny coin. In the next part, Part 5, we'll go even further. We'll break down famous real-world examples of 1993 pennies that sold for significant sums, expert interviews and insights, detailed comparisons with other Lincoln cent errors, and a step-by-step guide for collectors hunting high-value coins. We'll also dive into the most dramatic myths and how to separate them from reality, giving you an almost complete roadmap for understanding the 1993 penny phenomenon. Hey everyone, welcome back! If you've been following this journey, by now you've learned that the 1993 Lincoln penny is far more than a simple 1-cent coin. It's a tiny artifact of history, a canvas of intricate design, and for collectors, a potential treasure, whether or not it's really worth $65 million. In this part, we're going to get hands-on with real-world examples, expert insights, comparisons to other famous Lincoln cent errors, and practical strategies for collectors hunting high-value coins. This is where the story gets truly actionable, and I promise it's going to be fascinating. First, let's explore real-world examples of 1993 pennies that have attracted attention in the collector market. While none have reached the mythical $65 million mark, certain coins have sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars, largely due to errors or exceptional grading. For instance, there are 1993 pennies with subtle doubled dies that went unnoticed for years until careful collectors discovered them. Some of these coins, graded MS-65 or MS-66, have sold at online auctions for $500 to $1,500, depending on visibility and rarity. That might not sound like millions, but for a coin that would otherwise be worth a single cent, it's incredible. Another example is the off-center strikes, where the die struck the planchet slightly off, cutting off part of Lincoln's bust or the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. These coins are highly desirable because the error is visually dramatic. In some cases, off-center 1993 pennies have fetched $2,000 to $5,000 at private sales or smaller auctions. Imagine finding one of these in a roll of pennies from the bank. It's the kind of moment that makes collectors' hearts race. Now, let's bring in some expert insights. Professional numismatists often stress that the value of a 1993 penny, or any modern coin, depends on condition, rarity, and documentation. For example, Mike Sherman, a seasoned coin grader, points out that even small anomalies on modern pennies, if graded high, can turn an ordinary coin into a collectible. The key is knowing what to look for and verifying it through professional grading. Experts also emphasize patience and attention to detail. Many collectors spend years examining rolls of pennies, gradually learning to spot differences that would be invisible to the casual eye. Comparisons with other famous Lincoln cent errors also help us understand the 1993 penny's potential. Take the 1955 double die obverse penny. It's one of the most famous coins in American numismatics, often selling for hundreds of thousands. Or the 1969 S double die, which broke the $1 million barrier at auction. What these coins have in common is dramatic, easy-to-see errors, historical significance, and scarcity. While the 1993 penny may not have a verified coin at that extreme level, it shares the potential for rarity through subtle doubling, off-center strikes, or planchet anomalies. In other words, the framework for value is exactly the same. It's just a matter of finding the right specimen. Now, let's get practical. If you're a collector hoping to spot a valuable 1993 penny, here are some steps professionals recommend. Start with uncirculated rolls. Bank rolls, old coin jars, or rolls purchased from collectors can yield untouched coins. Look for pennies that retain a bright, reddish luster. Use magnification tools. Loupes, 10x, 20x, or microscopes can reveal subtle doubling, die cracks, or minting anomalies that aren't visible to the naked eye. Check mint marks and dates carefully. While the 1993 penny was minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S for proof coins. Even slight variations in placement or font can indicate a rare die variety. Compared to reference images, websites, numismatic databases, and coin catalogs often provide high-resolution images of known error varieties. Compare your coins side by side to identify potential anomalies. Document and verify. If you find a potentially valuable coin, document it with clear photos, measurements, and notes on condition. Then, consider submitting it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Another exciting angle is provenance and historical context. Coins that can be traced to special events, mint trial runs, or unique production batches often attract premium value. For example, a 1993 penny discovered in a preserved mint roll from the year it was produced, with documented chain of custody, could become significantly more valuable than a similar coin with unknown history. Provenance provides a story, and as collectors know, a compelling story can sometimes outweigh even the most minor physical anomalies. Now, let's address the digital era and online collector strategies. With platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and numismatic forums, collectors can research, compare, and buy coins globally. Many have also begun sharing high-resolution images online to crowdsource verification from experienced collectors. This has changed the game. A coin once considered mundane in a local market could be identified as a rare variety within hours by the online numismatic community. The power of community knowledge has made the search for high-value 1993 pennies more efficient and exciting than ever. Alright, let's circle back to the $65 million myth, because it's important to understand how such numbers spread and why they persist. The truth is, no verified 1993 penny has sold for tens of millions. But these stories often begin with a combination of rare error speculation, viral online posts, and social media sharing auction hype from related coins collectors' imaginations about one-of-a-kind finds. Even if exaggerated, the legend keeps the coin in conversations, search efforts, and collector obsessions. And that's exactly why the 1993 penny continues to capture attention decades after its production. Finally, let's highlight some fun facts and little-known insights about the 1993 penny. The 1993 penny retains the classic Lincoln memorial reverse, which includes a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the columns, a micro-detail that amazes collectors. The copper-plated zinc composition introduced in the early 1980s created new varieties of planchet errors that continue to be studied and collected. Some high-grade 1993 pennies have near-perfect luster and striking, making them visually stunning even if they're not officially error coins. Despite being modern coins, they're already part of history, representing the early 1990s era of US currency before the digital revolution changed how coins are produced and circulated. So, what's the takeaway from Part 5? The 1993 Lincoln penny is a blend of history, artistry, potential rarity, and collector fascination. Whether you're hunting for subtle double dies, off-center strikes, or simply appreciating its design, every penny holds a story. While the $65 million hype is largely a myth, it serves as a reminder that even the smallest objects can capture our imagination and inspire years of exploration, discovery, and excitement. In the next part, Part 6, we'll cover the ultimate guide for collectors, including step-by-step coin inspection for errors, tips for preserving and storing pennies, understanding auction strategies, and bidding tips, how to navigate myths versus verified sales. This part will be especially valuable for anyone who wants to turn their curiosity into practical knowledge and maybe even find a hidden gem in their collection.